Hello and welcome in. You're listening to the Subconscious Mind Mastery Podcast. This is Daniel Danovi. Oh my God, what a couple of weeks it has been for me in Texas. And if I'm completely honest, I have to tell you, I am and have been so tired. My wife and I and our kids have been splitting time between the house and temporary digs at the hotel. And it has been stressful on our life, to say the least. Our youngest is been diagnosed autistic, and he doesn't do well with interruptions to the routine. And this has been one major interruption to the routine. We had a pipe burst during the big freeze and flooded two of our rooms. And there's a variety of damage in other areas too, but the house is quite unsettled. And going 30 plus hours without electricity, sometimes coming on for a couple hours, then going off for 12 hours. The pool froze over 4 inches solid. And amidst all the physical chaos, I've had 4 close friends of mine leave the physical plane. They haven't necessarily been easy to accept at first, and I went through my own period of mourning about that before I come to terms with the fact that they transitioned to a new dimension of being, and where I can relate to them in a whole new way. But between the physical and the emotional strain's not the appropriate word, influences, we have found some silver lining to many of the things. We're actually finding prepared to remodel things that we've been putting off in the house, upgrading several things, and but it just isn't. And I think one reason why we've been putting it off, because it just isn't convenient, to the maintenance of our day-to-day life. And for those of you that are not aware of what was going on in Texas, we had, beginning February 14th on Valentine's Day, we had sub-freezing weather. And it's not typical for Texas to get that cold. And by the time it was all done, we were down to 1 degree and negative wind chill in the double digits. And Texas and the infrastructure just isn't built for that temperature. So there was a collapse of some of the infrastructure. And, in retrospect and hindsight, federal investigations, there was some blame to be pointed at different people that had dropped the ball. So there was massive power outages, and some people, God bless you Texans, that went without power for nearly a week. That would have been tough. Thank goodness we had a fireplace, and I had a tree in the yard that I have been putting off knocking down and cutting up and putting to the road to be picked up. So I ended up pushing it down and cutting it up in the freezing cold, and we burned that. That sustained us for a couple nights. And it was during one of those nights where the power was out and we had candlelight and firelight, and my wife and I were sitting on the couch, and our oldest son was with us, and we were just talking and reminiscing over our life, and he was actually listening about how things were for us when we were younger and how we got through different periods of our life. And it was a very intimate and caring moment, and it's one of the highlights, and it was unequivocal because it couldn't be recreated any other way than the way it happened. And I think that's one of the blessings in being human, that even though things don't necessarily go the way you plan, there are gems in the moments that we claim as being extraordinary, even though they appear as ordinary moments from the outside. And I think this is an appropriate time to acknowledge my friend Thomas Miller, who created a special podcast and a request for you listeners to support Majana and I, who both of us had situations with the weather in our plumbing, and you gave from your hearts, and I was and am so touched by your generosity. And I also was present to my own unwillingness to ask for help. I by and large, I've been a do-it-yourselfer, and I guess I get that from my father. And I find it hard to ask for help, to ask for assistance. And so what Thomas Miller did for us, Majana, I, my family, I would have never done that for myself. I wouldn't have asked you for, a contribution. And it helped. It helped. Insurance doesn't cover everything, not by a long shot. And my wish for you is that whatever you contributed, return to you 1,000-fold, 1,000-fold. And there is this idea in manifesting that every dollar we circulate multiplies and feeds the economy. And it is scarcity mindset to hoard. So when you have the capacity to give, and if you didn't have the capacity to give, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. Give what you can, give where you can. And it does come back to you. I know there's been many times when I could have given in the past, and I did not, for one reason or another, or if I was caught up in my own scarcity concept at the time. And when we give from our heart, when we buy and spend from our heart, as if more money's coming in, we actually fuel the whole concept of abundance in our experience of life. I'm going to have to leave this in. Thomas Miller had taught me a technique called punch roll, where you go back a few seconds and begin again when there's a pause, or maybe you lose your thought or something. And I did that, and I effectively erased 15 minutes of dialogue. So I'm going to leave this in. And it ties into the whole idea that adversity never leaves you where it finds you. So inside of this circumstance, if I have a message in this podcast, I have a message of just keeping you up to date and bringing you into my life somewhat, but also, what's the benefit of this? How does this prove that the universe has my back? That everything happens for a reason. And now, I don't really believe that everything happens for a reason, even delays. It has mostly to do with your alignment. But there's also, we can't always see the benefit of an experience when it shows up, when at first it seems like a tragedy or an accident, and I think it's incumbent upon us to search out and see the benefit. And frankly, if I have one gift, and I know I have many gifts, but if I have one gift, it is that of being able to see the positive, the good in adversity. It's the power of reframing, looking at it from a different perspective and asking the question, how does this serve me? What does this now make possible? And so while there was a substantial loss of property, nobody lost their life in our household. We had several animals that we were able to care for and keep in comfort somewhat, given the cold. We had a house bunny, Albert. Oh, he was white, so we nicknamed him Albert Einstein. He left the physical plane on the 9th of February, the same day that I lost a very good friend due to a skiing accident. And Albert had been a substantial part of our life. We let him out every evening to run around the house, and he lived in a cage in the house and was litter box trained, and he enjoyed getting out. He'd rattle his cage every day at 4:30 to make sure that he gets his treat. He was always right on time, which I thought was pretty impressive. But he would not have made it through the cold and probably would have suffered. But I found him in his cage and appropriately took care of him before all of this. So if I was to look for myself, what is the silver lining behind all this? The positive aspects. One, my intuition allowed me to circumvent the flooding faster than if I had not had or been in tune with my intuition. I was awoken by a dream of a flood, water coming in from everywhere. And I thought I heard the rushing of water like a waterfall. And I sat up with a start in bed at 4 a.m. And my wife was awakened at the same time by my movement and said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I said, "I think there's a flood." And after looking, there was nothing. And I told her so, and she said, "Just come back to bed." And I said, No. I'm definitely awake. I'm full of adrenaline right now, so I'm just going to sit up and probably up for the duration." And it was no more than 15 minutes later when I became aware of the flood in the other room. And I was able to run outside in my pajamas and my bare feet and turn the water off at the road. While it took me probably 20 minutes, 30 minutes to accomplish that, and the damage would have been much, much worse than it was. So again, for myself, there was the validation that I'm supported by the universe through that intuitive guidance and that I'm in touch with my intuition. Now, this is something that I really know, that I have, psychic gifts, psychic insight, and my intuition is intimately woven into the tapestry of my life. It is always nice to get those affirmative experiences and the comfort of knowing that there are unseen divine energies that support me and support our family. There was the awareness of my willingness or unwillingness to accept assistance. And so that's been interesting for me to look at. The other is I'm very capable with a hammer and saw and construction carpentry. And I originally thought I was going to do all this renovation myself, much to my wife's chagrin. But through her urgings for me to look elsewhere to put my energies, I realized just because I can do something doesn't mean I should do something. And frankly, I've had this conversation with clients where they've had years of a particular skill set, and they think that their next venture, their next incarnation, should include the skills that they already have. But that can be just one chapter of your life, the one that you close and open up a new chapter and create and generate new skills, a new identity, a new skill set. So in me looking at where to put my energy, I realized that the greatest source and productive use of my time, where to place my energies, my skill set, it is not in the reconstruction of the home. We can hire people to do that, but it is in me doing this podcast. It is me working with my clients and bringing in and ushering people through my Aligned Self program, which is transformational. And the impact is so much more far-reaching than in me, fixing a wall. And there has been also, for me, a lot of letting go of friends, remembering them and remembering their contribution to my life and how they are alive inside me. There are aspects of their personality that I've incorporated as my own. And of the people that have recently died in my life, none of them left by COVID. It was something else, some other circumstances that they came, they reached a point where they were leaving the physical plane. So I've been reminded of the fragility of life and the value, and that there are no ordinary moments. There are no ordinary moments. If you're present to it, every moment has the seed of wonder, awe, and amazement. And also in that reflection of just because I can do something doesn't mean I should do something. I have to look ahead and what am I up to in the world? I've stated before that I want to create 10,000 leaders. I want to impact thousands of lives. And again, I don't need the credit for it. I just have to know for myself that I made a difference on the planet. I made a difference while I was here in this body. And I was made present to the fact that many of you that listen to the podcast may be and are impacted in positive ways. I mean, that's really why I do this. And I'll never know. I may never know the impact that, one idea has had on your life. But it is in me showing up and doing the best that I can with the resources I have at any given moment and just having the intention of making a difference. I can remember many years ago, after doing workshops and seminars, I used to have my idea of what I wanted the transformation to be for a particular person or for a particular event. And then I had to resign myself that you get what you get. and that every person is on the cutting edge of their own discoveries. And even though I see something of greater possibility for you or for someone else, the important thing is that you have an aha moment, that something is different for you in your life as you move forward as a result of our interaction. And I remember many years ago when someone came back to me and said, "You changed my life forever when you said such and such." And I thanked them, but I had to rack my brain. I don't remember ever saying that, what I said. It wasn't, it didn't sound like something I would say, but they credited me for it. And their life took off on a completely different direction. And then I remember another young woman who was sitting in my workshop, and I said something, and immediately she began writing. And she kept looking up at me and writing more. And I'm thinking, I'm getting through to her. Like, oh, she's just eating this up. And at the break, she left her seat, left her notebook on her chair, and I could not help but go over and just glance at it. And I realized that she took one sentence that I said, and had a stream of consciousness release of ideas and things that she wrote down. And so she really took away one sentence that I said. The rest was inside her. And my wish and goal for you is that you unleash the positive, powerful aspects of your being, of your life, and that they unfold in the most magical way for you. That sounds kind of airy-fairy, doesn't it? No, it does. But I wish that for you, that no matter how life shows up, that you're able to find the silver lining, you're able to find the good inside the adversity, that you are able to see the positive benefit of things that happened for you, that life happens for you. You're not a victim, that you can be a victor, and that you declare that you are unstoppable because you refuse to stay down when you get knocked down. And I think that is a good place to leave this message. Now, as a consequence of the events of late, I have pushed out my start date for the Aligned Self, my signature coaching program, out to the end of March. So there's still time to get involved if you want to get involved. And I absolutely guarantee it is transformational and life-altering. You can look at the areas there, or you can investigate that further on my website portal, yesdaniel.com. There's also some free audios available there, other opportunities to work with me from there. So as I bring this to a close, I want you to know that I love you, even though I don't know you, that this is a labor of love for me, and I'm here to make a difference for you. And if I have made a difference for you, please share with me what I've done or how it has impacted you, because it actually allows me to assist other people. Because if I know that made an impact for you, it's probably making an impact for other people. And again, I'm here to make a difference. And I want to express the thanks and gratitude that I have for Thomas Miller, the originator of the Subconscious Mind Mastery podcast, and his invitation to pick up the torch and carry it forward as he explores some other things in his life, the Fun Astrology podcast with Thomas Miller. And if you're still listening, I want you to know how much I appreciate your listening and your ear and your attention and your love and gratitude. Enjoy the journey.
The opinions on this podcast are those of the host, based on personal experience only, and are not intended as medical or psychological advice. If you are experiencing symptoms that require professional treatment, please contact a licensed medical practitioner.